That search for those responsible continues in Paris. ISIS is lobbing new threats against the United States, specifically targeting New York City and Times Square. Look at these pictures they posted on the internet. I want to bring in former Navy SEAL commander Jocko Willink joining us right now. Also joining us, of course, Hedge Eye Risks, Keith McCullough. Keith, good to see you. It's great to see you, Jocko. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Talk to us about what these raids entail at this point with forces now going to do raids across cities in France as well as in Belgium right now. What do those look like from a practical level?
Initially, you're going to gather intelligence. You're going to get some reports that you find out where some of these terrorists are, come up with a quick mission plan, and go out and hit them. And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Are they more effective when you go in and you hit them like direct on the ground, or like what would you say about that compared to the airstrikes?
Oh, if you're talking about ones that are taking place over in Iraq and Syria, then you've got to do a little bit of both. You know, I'm in support of anything that's killing insurgents or terrorists, whether it's airstrikes or people on the ground. They're both effective. But eventually, you know, you're going to need to put people on the ground if you want to really do battle damage assessment, see what kind of progress you're making, and really move forward in the overall operations.
I mean, you and your colleagues obviously were very successful in taking back a key city in Iraq that we needed once the insurgents were there. How would you characterize what they're doing today in Iraq and Syria?
I mean, they've got Ramadi. You know, that's the city that we fought for. ISIS has got Ramadi. In order to take it back, and they are fighting for it right now, you know, Iraqi forces are fighting to take it back right now, but they're going to need some support, and they're definitely going to need air support, and they're likely going to need troops on the ground to help them take that city back. And it's going to be a brutal fight. It's going to be a brutal fight. The enemy is dug in there, and that makes it very, very challenging.
How would you compare and contrast the aggressiveness of what France is doing, and then what the U.S. is doing in terms of fighting ISIS, and what we have or have not been doing?
Well, in my opinion, you need to absolutely turn up the heat. And I think France, I think Russia are going to start to be ultra aggressive. They've taken casualties in their own country, in their homeland, and they're going to start to be very aggressive. And I believe we should support them and do the same. And even beyond support, you know, we're America. We should be taking a leadership role in attacking this disturbing and disgusting enemy.
Is that odd to watch, to see the French lead from the front here, and for us to still, like you said, not just get after it?
It is very disturbing to see. And America, you know, we have military force that no other country in the world has. And so why would we not use that force to, you know, rid ourselves of this horrible enemy?
So do you think it's inevitable that we just go, or do you think you're just going to sit here and we're going to be frustrated watching this?
I don't think it's inevitable, but I think we should. You know, you've got to, and we should go with overwhelming force. You know, if you're going to go to war to win, and win decisively. Don't play around.
It also has to be really difficult for the military. I mean, you know, your team, the Navy SEALs, so many of you fighting, but it doesn't feel like you have a specific, you know, strategy in place. How do you deal with that when you've got so many differing opinions? You have the president say, look, I'm not going to deal with this Syrian refugee issue, and I'm not going to put more you know, troops on the ground.
It's horrible because we've got troops on the ground. Their hands are absolutely tied in what they're allowed to do right now, which is, again, just a horrible thing to do, and not the right strategy to have. If you're going to put Americans in harm's way, then give them the ability and the authorization to do their job, which right now they don't have.
Has the military spoken up about this to the president? I mean, do you think the president understands the position he's putting his strongest, most courageous teams in?
I would say no, the president does not understand.
Wow.
Strategic patience are the two words that the administration has used to describe its national security strategy in the past. Strategic patience.
What are we waiting for? I mean, how much more patient do you need to be? They've killed the French. They did the attack in Lebanon. They took on the Russian airliner. We've got now threats against, you know, Times Square. How much more patience do you need? I'm not sure.
Unbelievable.
Did you get a lot of support from the locals when boots were on the ground and when you were taking back Ramadi?
Everyone has to remember that the locals on the ground are normal people. We'd go into a building and there'd be a dad working on a car, there'd be two kids kicking a soccer ball, and there'd be a mom cooking dinner. And what they want is to live in peace. And they can't live in peace, obviously, now. Many of those people were murdered now by ISIS in the city of Ramadi. So so it's very disturbing.
And let me ask you this. What about the forces in the local areas? Because the president keeps saying we need to empower them. We need to make sure to help them and train them. What would you say about your colleagues on the ground, our friends around the world, and their servicemen on the ground?
This is actually crazy talk, because we had, the Sunnis rose up in Ramadi and fought, and all of Al-Anbar, and fought against the insurgents. And then we let them get overrun. We let them get killed, and they've been murdered by the hundreds. Those that stood up before. So now we're saying we need to wait for them. They did rise, and they did fight against ISIS and the insurgents, and now we left them. They got overrun. They've been murdered. I don't know where they're going to come from now.
Right. Jocko, thank you for your insights and obviously for your amazing service to our great country.
It was an honor to serve. Thank you.
Jocko Willink there. Coming up.